If you're thinking about moving to Longueuil, which is a city just south of Montreal, today I'll be presenting the pros and cons of living in Longueuil, Quebec. Longueuil is located on the South Shore of Montreal, and it's the fifth largest city in Quebec in terms of its population. That is around 255,000 people as of 2021. Pretty sure it has increased since, but 2021, 255,000 people. Longueuil is the most urbanized city of the South Shore of Montreal. And what you'll find is that Longueuil is a great city, but it's surrounded with other really interesting city. On the north, you'll find Boucherville. On the west, you'll find Saint-Lambert. On the southern part, you'll find Brossard. And on the east part, you'll find Saint-Bruno and Carignan. So on any given day, you can decide to stay in Longueuil with your friends and family, or you can take your car and go visit friends in all those interesting cities around Longueuil. Within Longueuil, you have three separate boroughs. You have Le Vieux-Longueuil, the oldest part of Longueuil, followed by Saint-Hubert, and lastly Greenfield Park. And those three boroughs form Longueuil. Before we start looking at the pros and cons, I'm really interested to know, do you know anyone that has lived in Longueuil? And if you do so, please write in the comments, what are the pros and cons from their perspective, or your perspective if you ever lived in Longueuil before. I'm really curious to know. And if you have a project of buying or selling a house, my team and I were there to help. Shoot us an email, call us, and we'll guide you from A to Z so that your transition is as smooth as possible. Now let's look at the cons. Traffic jams. Even though Longueuil is so close to Montreal, when you're in Longueuil, you look up, oh, you see Montreal, Jacques-Cartier Bridge, and you see Montreal. You're like, oh, it's so close, there's gonna be no traffic. Unfortunately, all those cities on the South Shore, they come in close to Longueuil and they use the bridges and the tunnel to go to Montreal. So you might be close to Montreal, but you'll still hit traffic, especially during the peak hours, during the weekdays. On the bridges, you'll see it slowly moving towards Montreal, slowly. Not only that, when you come back from work at night, you cross the bridge, Jacques-Cartier, you arrive in the Vieux-Longueuil area. If you have to drive to your house within Longueuil, which is a large territory, it might take you, I don't know, 20 to 30 minutes just to cross Longueuil to get to Saint-Hubert. It might take 15 to 30 minutes, but still, it's impressive because people think, oh, well, I'm in Longueuil, so it should take just 5 minutes. No, it can take quite a bit of time just to get to your house, especially if you live in the further area of Saint-Hubert, for instance. If you live close to the airport in Saint-Hubert, one of the three boroughs of Longueuil, the airport noise might get on your nerves. Same thing for the train station. Some people around the train station or around the airport might say that, you know what, the noise gets on my nerve, but after a couple of months, you won't hear it. I asked a couple of my clients what were the cons of living in Longueuil, and the one that's kind of recent is the fact that the city now picks up the trash every 2 weeks instead of every week. Well, for now, it's a con because people are, they're not adapted to this, so they're like, oh, it smells during the summertime because it's hot. But on a long-term basis, when you look at it, the city is simply trying to reduce the amount of garbage we throw away. And on the other hand, they've increased the frequency of how often they come and pick up the organic material. So they pick up the organic material every week and the trash every 2 weeks. So for the environment, it's gonna be good, medium term, long term. But for now, some citizens are saying that, the smell, summertime, they're not adapted to it. It's a change. Nobody likes a change. So eventually they're gonna be okay with it. I asked another my friend, Max. I said, hey, Max, what are the cons of living in Longueuil? And my friend Max, he likes to go to some fine dining restaurants. He's like, well, there's a few options in the Vieux-Longueuil area, Saint-Charles area. Couple of places you can go eat fine dining, but other than that, you need to take your car and go downtown Montreal to have the best restaurants. Now, there's some social challenges, poverty issues in Longueuil. On the South Shore of Montreal, in Longueuil, specifically in the Vieux-Longueuil, this is where you have the most amount of people that are facing poverty. You have single parent families as well. You have an aging population, so you got a bunch of social challenges in the future. But the good news is there's some regional and municipal agencies that are working to help those people in need. But again, you have to know that a lot of people are facing, unfortunately, poverty in Longueuil. Some neighborhood of Longueuil lack character in the sense that they're not so appealing. So they need investment. You drive in your car, you see a street, you're like, oh, it's not that appealing, you know, to be polite. But at the same time, we're seeing people buying houses, remodeling the houses. We're seeing people buying businesses, remodeling the businesses. We're seeing larger builders planning to remodel the whole neighborhood, so it's slowly changing. But for now, you might hit a street or two that are not that appealing in terms of its character. Lastly, there's just a small downtown area in Longueuil. You know, small. When I ask my clients that live in Longueuil, specifically Europeans, and they tell me that, well, we have a tiny neighborhood. It's the American way, they're saying, because there's a huge territory with a tiny downtown area. In Europe, it's fairly different. But if you want to have this sense of downtown, you have to cross the bridge to go to Montreal again. But at the same time, it's growing. It's getting better and better every year. I'm pretty sure in 20 years from now, the downtown area of Longueuil will be really appealing. But for now, it's okay. Let's put it that way. Now let's look at the pros of living in Longueuil. The location of Longueuil is really great. You can go to Longueuil using bridges and a tunnel, and once you're in Longueuil, you realize that you can go everywhere, commute to every place you want to go. You want to go to Quebec City, there's a highway that will bring you to Quebec City. You want to go to the Eastern Townships, you use a highway to go to Eastern Townships. You want to go to the United States, well, you use a highway to go to the United States. So it's really easy to commute to everywhere you want to go. You want to go to the airport of Montreal to go to Toronto, New York, well, you drive easily to the airport of Montreal and you can take a flight to wherever you want in the world. So it's really, the location couldn't be better. And on top of that, if you own a business, you're producing some goods and you want to ship them, export them to Europe or any place in the world, well, you have a port of Montreal that's really close by. So the location of Longueuil is great, really strategic and well positioned to have a happy life. In Longueuil, you have different neighborhoods for different lifestyles. For instance, if you like to live in a really exclusive upscale neighborhood, well, you might buy close to the Gulf. There's a Gulf in Longueuil. Or you might buy a house, upscale house, in one of those Saint-Hubert area, you know, close to them green spaces where you have houses above $1 million. Or if you have a smaller budget, you want to buy a bungalow, you know, one-story bungalow. Well, there's different areas in Longueuil where you can buy a bungalow at 500, 600, 700. That's more adapted to different budget. Or if you're a tenant, you want to rent for a couple of years. You're arriving from Europe, you want to rent a place before buying. Well, you have a bunch of different areas where you have a lot of apartment buildings, multi-family unit where you can rent. So you have different options for different budgets within Longueuil. Really great. Now, the public transportation system in Longueuil is really fantastic because you can go to Longueuil from Montreal using the subway station. You can go to Montreal. If you're in Saint-Hubert in the morning, you say, you know what, I'm not going to take my car. I'm going to drive to Saint-Hubert, which is one of the boroughs in Longueuil. I'm going to take the train that will bring me to Montreal. So you have the subway, the metro we call it, or the train. So two great options. And once you arrive in Longueuil after work, let's say 5 o'clock, you can use a bus system to bring you to anywhere in Longueuil. And if you live outside of Longueuil, you have buses that do the commute from Longueuil to every single city on the South Shore of Montreal. And lastly, at the train station in Saint-Hubert, you have a train that will bring you to Montreal, but you also have train that will bring you to every other area, even Toronto or Quebec City. So that's really great for people that live in Longueuil. They have access to all those options in terms of public transportation. Now, the green spaces and the riverbanks of the St. Lawrence River. When you live in Longueuil, you'll realize that you have a long riverbank facing Montreal. And you have parks. You have a marina if you have a boat. You even have a shuttle that will bring you from Longueuil to the old port of Montreal. So this is really great. On a bright, sunny July afternoon, you ride your bike close to the water in one of those parks, and you decide, let's hop on the shuttle that will bring us to the Montreal Old Port. So this is really great. And when you use the shuttle, you see the whole view of Montreal and of the St. Lawrence River. It's really great. Within Longueuil, you have two great spots for parks and green spaces, my personal favorite. You have the park Michel Chartrand, and right next to it, le Boisé du Tremblay. And I know those two areas because I used to work on the South Shore of Montreal, and on my break at lunchtime, I used to go there just to relax. And there's, especially at the Boisé du Tremblay, you have different animals. It's really like you're in a forest. So it's really, really great to have this within Longueuil. Now, the services and activities in Longueuil are really great. There's a great variety. The municipal, the city itself will offer a bunch of different services, but you have a great variety as well of businesses, retail businesses that will offer all kinds of services and products. And if you want to play sports, your kids want to play sport, there's a bunch of different options, different parks to play all kinds of sports. You have cultural event, family event, you have a bike path that's one of the best on the South Shore. Everybody that I know that lives in Longueuil, they all use the bike path because it's really great. It's a great way to travel all around Longueuil. It encourages you to take your bike and go outside and just, breathe the fresh air and do some exercise. So within Longueuil, you'll realize that you have everything you need in terms of the commodities, the services that you need in your day-to-day life. If you have really specific tastes, you might go to Montreal, but other than that, you have everything you need within Longueuil. Real estate prices are really affordable in Longueuil. You can buy a house, a single family house in Longueuil at $569K. That was the average between January and July 2022. And if you compare the prices in Longueuil with all the different areas and cities around Longueuil, you'll quickly realize that it's much cheaper than the other alternatives around it. I'll give you an idea. Again, $569K for a house in Longueuil. Brossard, $776. Boucherville to the north, $793K. Saint-Bruno, $808K. And lastly, on the western part, Saint-Lambert, $1,171,000 for a single family house. So Longueuil is really affordable compared to Montreal, but also compared to all the cities around Longueuil on the South Shore. Lastly, the job opportunities are really great within Longueuil because you're so close to all the different cities on the South Shore, but you're close to Montreal where you have tons of different businesses. So whether you want to work on the South Shore or cross the bridge to work in Montreal, there's plenty of alternatives. And if you own a business and you decide to open your business in Longueuil, you'll easily find some employees within the city of Longueuil, or you might find some employees in Montreal that will cross the bridge to work in Longueuil. So this is really great for yourself if you're an employee, or for yourself if you're a business owner. That was it, guys, for Longueuil. I hope you liked it. If you have a project, like I said, of buying or selling, feel free to give us a call. Shoot us an email. We're there to help, to guide you from A to Z to make your transition as smooth as possible. And if you're interested in knowing more about the real estate market, I got more videos coming up. Take good care. I'll see you in the next video.